You're listening to The Mike Muse Show.
All right, folks, welcome back. What a conversation, what a cast, what a film. Warfare isn't just a movie. It's a mirror, a lens into the psychological, emotional, and political battles our service members fight along after the battlefield fades to black. I was thinking about the performances that we just unpacked, and it reminds us that war doesn't end with silence. It echoes in policy, in memory, and in consequence. I just can't think about the number of times that, I've heard that term, as I mentioned earlier, thank you for your service. And sometimes for me, it feels performative. And I hope that more people will see this movie and put a different tone to it. And I hope that that term resonates differently with Americans as we say thank you for the service, because I don't think we really know what the sacrifice is that our military goes through in order to protect our freedoms. That's how much I was moved by this. And it's also, too, in part frustrating, too, as well, when you think about the performative nature of the way that our military is used during sporting events. Now, I'm not going to say it's not patriotic. I'm not going to say that they're being inauthentic. But at the end of the day, when you see the military at sporting events, it's a marketing tool that is used for the military for recruitment. And that just feels different for me now after listening and watching this movie and then listening to this cast unpack that. So I think we need to be a little bit more sacred of our military and our military vets to what they've gone through. I mentioned earlier consequences, but in speaking of consequences, we need to talk about something that's not fiction. We need to talk about the headlines. Recently, it came to light that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth included actual attack plans. Let me say that again. Secretary Pete Hegseth included actual attack plans in a Signal chat, a private messaging thread. Now, I know some of y'all are saying, but Signal is encrypted. Sure, but we need to talk about what that is. And I pulled this apart, but just in case some of you missed it when I talked about what encryption means. Encryptic means encryptic end-to-end. And so that means if Johnny sends Sally a message, the moment that Johnny begins typing, it becomes encrypted or coded. And what happens is Johnny then transmits and sends that message to Sally. But in doing so, in that transmission, the message gets scrambled, things like scrambled eggs. And then by the time it reaches Sally, it becomes unscrambled because on the other end, Sally essentially has the ability to decode it, right? And to essentially use a virtual key in the coding in order to unlock and unscramble the message so that Sally can receive it. So that's what they mean by encrypted end-to-end. And when that message is being transferred, no one can interfere with that. You can't get into the signal. But that's not what the security measure is. The threat of security is that this product, the software, is actually on a physical product. So it's not the software that's at harm. It's the potential for someone to get into your phone, your laptop, your tablet through a phishing, through a virus, and being able to take over your phone or your laptop or your tablet and then open up your Signal app and then go through the latest conversation you had and be able to use that, for adversarial reasons, right? Or reasons that are not good. And so that is what it is to mean by, yes, it's encrypted end to end, but at the end of the day, it also, too, doesn't mean that the product is safe and that our adversaries can tap into our physical products. So that's what it's about in terms of the software versus the physical product. But this is also about trust and leadership. And when that encryption breaks, even conceptually, our national security fractures with it. Folks, this isn't about politics. This is about process. This is about protection. This is about people. Because when the highest level of military command operate with the casualness of a group text, It doesn't just compromise strategy, it compromises the soldiers tasked with carrying that strategy out. It compromises their lives, their families, their futures. And for me, like, that's where the film Warfare hit a deeper note. We celebrate soldiers in theaters, we honor them in scripts, but off screen, in real life, we cut veteran services. I know, I get these comments all the time on the morning show, and also too in my DMs. So many concerns about veteran affairs and where do we stand with veteran affairs, and are we protecting our vets? And sometimes, as of late, it's not even seeming to be a part of the priority of politics, not even just of this administration, but just in general. There's a time we heard more about the Veterans Affairs Department, but we don't hear much about it now. You know, we debate their health care. We delay housing benefits. And while our politicians tweet out flag emojis and wear pins on their lapels, many of our veterans sleep on benches under those same flags. That's the real warfare, the warfare after the war. So here's a question I want to pose to all of us, especially those in power. Are we being led by those who understand the cost of war? Not in dollars, but in dignity, in discipline, in duty. I want to really lean into that term, discipline. Think about that. Because leadership at the Pentagon isn't just about knowing how to fight. It's about knowing why we fight and knowing how to care for those who fight for us. This latest version, revelation with Secretary Hegseth, for me, it's a red flag. You know, not just of recklessness, but of a systemic culture that sometimes values bravado over security and optics over outcomes. It's really frustrating. If a movie like Warfare can make us feel, can make us reflect, then the last thing we can do is turn that reflection into responsibility. I believe that Warfare for me is a call to action. Responsibility in how we protect our secrets. Responsibility in how we care for our veterans. Responsibility in the questions we ask about who holds the power to make life and death decisions on behalf of our nations. So I just want to just do a special moment and really talk to our military brothers and sisters. To our active duty service members listening, I just want to say, yo, I see you. To our veterans, we owe you more than just applause and thank you for your service. We owe you policy, folks. We owe you purpose. We owe you leadership worthy of your sacrifice. This isn't just about warfare. This is about how we wage it and who we become in the process. So I'm going to be sticking to this. I'm going to be keeping up with Veterans Affairs. I'm going to be staying the course on where we are throughout policy with the different Veterans Affairs, and really call out elected officials who are both for our military and who I feel are working against our military. I would definitely want to keep the focus on that. So with that being said, folks, I want you guys to all have a wonderful and happy Saturday. I hope you are enjoying the madness that is March Madness. Wondering how your brackets do. Hit me up. Let me know at I am Mike Muse, MUSNSAME on Instagram and Twitter and Threads. And I cannot wait to be in conversation with you all tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more dope and exciting and incredible conversations. It's been so much fun rocking with you guys all week long on here on the Mike Muse Show, Say in the Morning, ABC News Live, Good Morning America. I mean, I'm just having too much fun right now with you all. And what I love most is I've been able to meet so many of you as I move about the cabin and call it America, and to hear how you guys are rocking with me and how you're engaging in the conversation and you're asking me questions. It's let me know if we're on to something, folks. So I want you guys to have a wonderful and amazing weekend. Until next time, folks. Peace.